So let's talk a bit about product-led organizations and agility. Mia, then, a question to you. How do you help organizations shift from a project-led organization to a product-led organization?
Well, most of the times, organizations and people maybe realize that they have some flaws in the processes and maybe aren't able to deliver as fast as they want to, and it's getting slower and slower. Maybe quality is going down as well, and not being able maybe to shift fast enough to new consumer behaviors.
Right.
So helping them to understand why this is happening, and a lot of times it's happening because you have a project-led organization, and a lot of people are involved in many different projects, which means if I have 5 projects that I'm involved in, I might only be able to actually work and deliver value 20% because 80% of my time will be task switching. So this is a fact,
Right.
and this has also been studied many times. So we help them to understand this is what's causing your problems, and you need to maybe organize around those things that are most important. And then we can build product teams instead, take ownership over time over one feature, one product or something. And that enables them to work across the product cycle as well. So this gives mandates to those teams and will increase the quality and innovation within the organization. So we help them to understand why this is happening and then shift those structures. But that's a huge process for many organizations. So starting somewhere and changing the business cycle, the business processes, and budgeting and all those things to enable this work to happen within smaller groups of people.
Very interesting. And then Terence, moving on to you. How does working on a platform help a function like design, particularly to break silos and basically to get involved in the process a bit earlier?
Yes. For design, design is really a team sport. It's really collaboration and helping each other and supporting each other actively. And it's amazing what one designer can do. Yeah, if he's locked away, the designer can be very creative and have lots of output. But I think once you're able to take the step to be collaborative, working with R&D teams, quality teams, purchasing teams, business teams, research teams, once you can unlock that potential of working cross collaboratively, being open to ideas, withholding judgment at the start, I think once that happens, you can really enable really deep creativity. I think that's when you can find solutions that can solve multiple problems and not only one single problem.
And move maybe from outcome-based focus to outcome-based, so output from output to outcome.
Yes, exactly, totally.
Yes, yeah, that is very important.
Yeah. And with the pandemic, I think, some studies have shown that we have accelerated this process by 7 years because it really forced us to be more creative in the way we work collaboratively, using tools and connectivity to really jumpstart this process, right? So I think the way we work coming in the next years will be different from how we worked in the last 5 years. And I think it's a very exciting time to be a designer right now.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that.
We've seen a lot of more collaboration going on across organizations as well, and much more frequently, which I think that wouldn't have been possible without technology, of course, but it's really been driven by COVID.
Right.
The need for it, and enable that with the right tools at the right time, and just letting that go. Here are the things to help you collaborate that really helps businesses to thrive. Now and in the future, of course.
Yes, that's very, very important, I think, to know. Also, then moving on towards talking a bit about creating those seamless customer experiences, then Mia, talk to us a little bit about how we go about creating seamless customer experiences across various touch points in, like, say, a product-led organization, for example.
Yeah, so moving back to the actual consumer, they might experience in using products that they maybe not be so well designed, connected, and maybe you move from one device to another device and you try to have a seamless experience, it's not really working for you. That is usually due to that people within different parts of the organization or different teams take ownership of different parts, but they don't maybe collaborate in a good way. So looking at the customer experience, looking at the customer journey and organize around that and have a design leadership that support teams to understand which are the touch points and the pain points that we have and collaborations to support and solve those. So getting that transparency and looking at the pain points and helping teams to actually see these things together and not maybe just focus on what we have on the table in our team.
That's very important. Yes. So, Terence, then moving forward on the topic of agility, particularly here, how important then is having an agile mindset in terms of product design then?
I think having an agile mindset is very, very important. And I think I also want to point out there's a natural tension here as well between
Right.
product design, like physical product design, and a digital product design. Physical product design is more ruled by a waterfall method,
Right.
with gates and with deliverables. And that method is really useful, when you have complex projects with lots of different kinds of modules from engineering teams, design teams, coming together at a point in time, as being assembled as a whole. And that's a really powerful tool, but it has many drawbacks as well.
Right.
Whereas digital design is more ruled by agile methodology, right? It's more iterative. You take user feedback constantly. You're constantly improving the process. You're constantly learning from the user and reprioritizing how you should, which are the problems you should go first and which should go second. And I think that is a very powerful tool as well for software design. So there's a natural tension there between physical and digital design. I think for designers, we need to really balance those two worlds. And I don't think there's a perfect answer for this yet. I think for every team, there'll be different balances of how you do this.
Right.
But getting the balance right is really important because at the end of the day, the consumer, the user would experience a product, physical and digital, at the same time. They don't experience it in abstract of each other.
Right.
Yeah. So how do you bring that to the user in a very positive and a very comprehensive experience? So I think that's really important for us to take that agile mindset and bring as much to the physical world as possible, but still respecting its rules and how we make things.
And I think the agile mindset is about experimentation and learning continuously. So if you have these people within the organization maybe building different parts, maybe you need to figure out the biggest risks that you have with the product, and that could be the experience. So you need a prototype together maybe and figure things out, and maybe bring people from different parts of the organization to do that first. And that can help. I mean, that could decrease delivery time by maybe half or 1/3 to actually deliver something that solves a problem for the customer, which might not be the same that you thought from the beginning. So I think this is where collaboration and actually exploring things together is really crucial, and not stick to the process that you have. A lot of times, if you have 3 months or 6 months for a process, then you take that time. But it doesn't maybe bring a better product to the customer. So
I think design is a really powerful tool in that way that you can really experiment in the early part of the process, right? And really understand if the problem you're solving is something that the consumer is worth solving for the consumer. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
And you cannot do that by planning. That's something you need to experiment. You must dare to fail and fail fast and
throw
learn.
that plan away and throw that
Exactly.
idea away.
Yes.
And so kill your darlings really early.
Exactly.
So that's
Fail
the designer
fast, learn
mindset
fast.
and agile mindset going together.
Exactly. Totally.
Absolutely. I absolutely love that. So so then what role does design leadership play then in organizations? How important is it to have a good leadership in design then?
I think it's vital. Most organizations that have that, they will be able to understand and find new ways of working based on the customer. So customer needs and customer behaviors always need to be at the heart of the organization and needs to come first.
Right.
Of course, employees as well, they need to be able to serve the customer. But if you focus on your internal processes and other things and find them more important to have the correct plan and follow up on the budget and hours, then you're going to miss the whole customer thing. So I think it's crucial to build on design leadership and have that understanding as high up as an organization as possible.
And do you think, are we there yet today?
In most organizations, no. I don't think so. And I think it really needs to happen. And I think we need to bring good design leaders so that they can come to the table and help organizations to thrive. So build on that because they work with the customers and of course technology and everything needs to go together. That's what you do in a product-led organization. You bring technology, unique user behaviors and design and all of that together. So
Great. So then the final question I have here for both of you, and we know that we live in a world of finite resources, right? Whereby we produce, then we consume, and then we discard. How does secular design change this in the future? Can it change it in the future, and how? Mia?
I don't know what to answer. You want to go first?
Okay.
I was like, hope Terence gets this.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
No worries.
Sorry. Okay.
Do I go first?
Yeah.
Okay. Sustainability is a classic complex problem. Why it's complex is because the answers are constantly counterintuitive. Things we assume to be true turn out to be untrue, or even the opposite, or they're not obvious.
No.
Yes. And it's also very complex as well in the way we describe it. I mean, if you talk about sustainability, some companies have chosen to use responsibility instead. There's words like, biodegradable, bio-based plastics,
Right.
recycled plastics, post-industrial, post-consumer, mechanical recycling, chemical recycling. I mean, there's so much technology, so much terms being thrown out there. It's hard for a person who is not deep into that kind of work to really understand the differences between these things. Yeah. So it's a really challenging topic, and I think what's happening right now is that we get amazing organizations like the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, who is really bringing this education to the public,
Right.
to designers, to leaders, and they have really quite a good curriculum on understanding circularity. So some things to pay attention to, based on Ellen MacArthur's Foundation's work. Right, one is use less. If we can make a part smaller, use less material, dematerialize a bit better, have it do more things than one
Yes.
function, that's a good thing. If you can remove unneeded parts, unneeded processes from the production, that's really good. So I think this is where designers really need to know how things are made and what they're made of. I think by really understanding this, you can really help the sustainability of what you're designing. The second is to use more often. So for example, use more recycled materials if possible. Use more recycled plastics, high content recycled steels. These are all good things.
Right.
Yeah, for certain types of plastics, recycled, for example, ABS. If you use recycled ABS, it's 50% less carbon footprint than if you use virgin ABS. So things like that make a big difference. And lastly is to use longer. So, the emotional durability and the functional durability aspect of it needs to be on point, that people want to use the product and the product can last to its desired length of use. And of course, repairability is a big important impact as well. Can we make it better? Can we improve it? Can we fix something when it's broken over the lifespan? I think these are all very important things. So use less, use more often, and use longer, I would say.
Very good. Yes.
It sounds like good metrics to have.
Yes. Yeah.
And I will say from an organizational perspective, just give the problem to the teams and measure what's really important, what you want to happen and not wrong things. And have people organize around things and have the same measurements, so we can't have different KPIs or measurements within an organization, because then we can't really collaborate.
No.
So those things could hold you back. So enable this by actually creating an organization that can do this work.
Absolutely. And with that, let's end today's show with a very big thank you to you both and to all our lovely audience out there.